You have to make it to where it is impossible for Russia to make gains, else they will seek more gains. It's not just about Ukraine. Ukraine falls, things don't just go back to normal. Things don't just suddenly go okay for everybody except the people in Ukraine. There are still threats to Finland after that. There are still threats to other countries once that happens. All right. This video is going to get demonetized. I know that. So we're going to go ahead and pull the whole, like, hey, subscribe. Hey, go to Patreon. Hey, do any of that stuff, because we're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And anytime we talk about Marjorie, the video gets demonetized. So, yeah, support the channel in ways other than just viewing, because stuff like this happens. But also, if you could just view, that's equally valid. I'm not actually asking for your money, but what I am asking for is for you to tune into the fan art section before we talk about Marjorie. This one is from Bikini Boy Jigan, said, finally finished. First piece of 2022 is Suris fan art. It is this model Suris on top of a slime Suris holding a slime Suris. Everything about that is adorable. Red Joker, thank you for the 101 bits cheer. The next one we have is from the Mini Ace. Finished, may do another version later. I want to try and place things for the chain. Face chosen by polling the Cult of the Unblinking One channel. Of course they would betray me like this, you fucking animals. You absolute degenerates, all of you. Jesus Christ. The next one we have is from Mao Oni-chan, and they said, today on stream they were asking, be Suris when? My answer is, be Suris now. Is that... Do I have two differently colored teeth? Have I been dipping into the honey? Have I been dipping into the honey without people knowing? Is that what's happened? Anyway, as always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in future episodes, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody.
Instead, sanctions act merely as a precursor to war, a sign of...
All right, let's go ahead and pop her over here.
A sign of battle lines being drawn. If we truly care about suffering and death on our television screens, we cannot fund more of it by sending money and weaponry to Ukraine to fight a war they cannot possibly win.
So, Marjorie Taylor Greene's position is that because Ukraine cannot win the war on Russia, we should just pull all of our support away. I mean, fuck the Ukrainian citizens. I guess them getting invaded isn't causing them any suffering or anything. What should they do? Just, you know, keel over, let Russia take them over? Is that the suggestion? Because if that's the suggestion, then please, what happens if China decides to invade the United States and happens to be stronger militarily, because we don't know everything we could know about their military. So let's pretend in that hypothetical world that, you know, we are the underpowered ones, and Canada and Mexico and any other allies that we have are just looking at us going, well, we could send support your way, but you can't possibly win this war, so fuck you. I hope you guys enjoy being under Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, that's something a Putin apologist said. Like, this is the same person who, when defending herself after the Nick Fuentes debacle, we'll just call it a Nick Fuentes concert. We'll call it that, where she was the headlining speaker. Apparently, she tried to denounce everything that was said about Russia, saying that she's not pro-Russia. She thinks what Putin is doing is wrong. She supports Ukraine. She stands with Ukraine. And then she does this shit. Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody, representative of my district.
The only effect of more arms and more money from America will be to prolong the war and magnify human suffering.
All right, Again, this is just the same point repeated. Marjorie, if you just believe that Ukrainians should be under Putin and you're pro-Putin, just say it with your whole fucking chest, you absolute dipshit. But let's go ahead and point out that it's really weird that her lapel microphone is being censored. Prolonging the war is, at this point, helping Ukraine. Yeah. Okay, so I am against fucking over Russian citizens who have nothing to do with the current conflict. However, if the country is being economically starved and we prolong the war with, if we help prolong that war and provide arms and defense for Ukraine, then Ukraine is the only country getting a constant supply of aid against a country that will slowly starve itself out militarily, which can force a military withdrawal. If we revoke all of our help, then only one thing happens. Ukraine falls, and fuck democracy. Let's go ahead and let dictator bullies do their fucking shit. And I'm sure there's somebody's going to be in the comment sections being like, Suris, you sound like a war hawk. Haha. Shut up. I'm sorry. I am of the opinion that were it my country being invaded, I would like our allies to help militarily to stop the invasion. Keeling over and just letting Russia do its thing doesn't do anybody any goddamn good. I mean, except Russia. Lets them expand their borders again through threat of violence.
I don't know about you, but I don't want to be responsible for creating even more refugees and orphans in an already traumatized and dysfunctional world.
So you don't want to create more refugees and more orphans. So you want Ukraine to fall. These are two incongruent statements. If you are effectively going to take a stance that is basically pro the Russian invasion of Ukraine, you are supporting a position that necessitates there being more refugees and more orphans. Those refugees and orphans are happening as a direct result of Russia's actions. So maybe don't lie on the internet?
It's not our responsibility to give President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people false hope about a war they cannot win. But given the Obama State Department and the Biden administration's interference in Ukraine over the years, we do now have a duty to help peacefully resolve the conflict by brokering peace talks and a successful, peaceful resolution. We can do all this without sending a dime and without shipping bombs to further inflame a war whose outcome already seems certain. We can do it without risking the dollar and therefore risking our economy, our jobs, and our homes. We must do it, I believe, as Christians to prevent any more human suffering and death.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about the dumb bitch juice for a minute. Okay. As Christians, you have to stop helping a country protect its own democracy. That's the position here that she takes. Okay. That's a little rich. So let's talk about what happens if you stop sending aid to Ukraine. If their military is no longer getting funding, is no longer getting weapons, is no longer getting any type of bolsterment from us. Yes, at that point, Russia would win. But if you starve Russia and also militarily support Ukraine, eventually the country with more resources is going to end up winning out. Or at least that's one outcome. It's not the only outcome. This could also end up in a Stalingrad, which would not be good. But that is one outcome. That is the outcome that people are trying to look for with sanctions. Now, I know that there are some people that have the fanciful idea that sanctions are going to create an environment in Russia where everybody will revolt against the government, and then in revolting against the government, will oust Putin, and then all of the war will stop. I don't really see that happening, because it's not just a Putin thing. It's not just that. You have to make it to where it is impossible for Russia to make gains, else they will seek more gains. It's not just about Ukraine. Ukraine falls, things don't just go back to normal. Things don't just suddenly go okay for everybody except the people in Ukraine. There are still threats to Finland after that. There are still threats to other countries once that happens. You have to stop that invasion where it is, because the last time we didn't stop the invasion where it happened, Crimea was annexed, and now we're here. And if this isn't stopped, in a few years, we will be in another now we're here situation. But I do find it wonderful that I am represented electorally by an individual like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who speaks at a white nationalist convention as the headlining speaker, makes apologia for why she did so afterwards, thinks Jewish space lasers destroyed parts of fucking California, and then comes out pretty much blatantly pro-Putin here. I think it's just very interesting that we live in a time where we are seeing the same types of political parties do the shit that they did back in World War II. Because a lot of the nationalist conversation in the United States had to do with not aiding any countries in their war on Germany, who were in the middle of doing the Holocaust at the time. We're seeing history repeat itself, and it's honestly kind of depressing. I know they don't really make content that much anymore, at least not of the political or atheistic variety, but I would highly recommend a video on Godless Cranium's channel that was part of a series that we used to do together called Cycles of Fascism, where Godless Cranium would take a look at organizations that ended up being pro-fascism in the past, and I would look at organizations that ended up being pro-fascism in the present. And together we would paint a better idea of how everything kind of looked at the moment. We didn't get very far in the project, but I would highly recommend it if you want some historical context for what I'm talking about. So, then what a shock that the lesser educated party won't learn from history. Yeah, what a shock that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who speaks at a convention of people who deny the Holocaust, would be pro somebody who is repeating so many of those old habits. Anyway, with all that said, if you guys enjoyed, insofar as you can, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And, as always, everybody, insert end video tagline here.